You want that off? Oh, okay. There you go. Go watch. Go watch.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
So Brandy, we're having our little girl time this week, and
We are.
we're just gonna shoot the shit for a little bit.
You guys want something real? This is something real. We're sitting in my living room on my couch. I've got my slippers on. Anya's right here watching something on an iPad.
Yes, and I know we were talking about, you just signed up for a class on blended families.
Yes.
You know, and I know that's a big topic, because I know for myself, you know, I've been in that situation,
Right.
You know, in previous marriages and stuff like that. It takes something, I don't know, that kind of thing takes some nurturing on both people.
It does.
Both
And so
partners.
I actually learned some good. So we're taking this class at church, and it's modeled off this book, The Smart Step Family by Ron Deal. And my hand is in the way. And then there's a workbook that the church gave us to go with it. So I'll post a link in the comments for this on Amazon so people know what it is. But, you know, we're like a really blended family. So if you can see above us, we have our names, and there's like, we had to pay extra than the normal wall plaque because we had so many names on ours. But we've got, you know, Mike was married twice and has 4 kids. Mm-hmm. And there's a huge age gap. So he's got a 16-year-old and a 20-year-old, and then he's got an almost 6-year-old and a 7-year-old.
Right.
And then I was married for 6 years, and I have an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old. So we've got a lot of dynamics in our blended family. And some relationships are amazing. Some are not at all amazing.
Right.
Some flip-flop and go back and forth between being good and bad and ugly and just whatever. So we met with the pastor at church, because, you know, we're not married yet, and we're getting married, and so we met with the pastor at church about,
You guys
like,
come up with a date yet?
no.
Okay.
No. It's either going to be next summer or the summer after. We have so much going on that
Okay.
I'm not ready to plan a wedding.
Okay.
So it's coming, but it's not a rush. I got the ring, so we're good.
I love it.
So the pastor at church recommended that they had this course coming up, and I'm like, that's perfect. Anyway, long story short, one of the things we learned in there that really stuck with me is that they talk about how a lot of blended families move really fast. And so he was saying that a lot of families get together, and what you don't realize is that the kids are about a year behind you in being ready.
Right.
And so he talks about how a lot of blended families, they fall in love. They fall in love, and then they put everything in a blender, and you blend everything up. So what happens when you put everything in a blender? You put all your ingredients in a blender, it turns into a shake or a sauce, and everything mixes together, right? And that's how you want a blended family to work. But that's not how it works. So he was saying a better analogy is that you need to put everything in a crock pot. And so when you put it in a crock pot, what happens? You put your meat and your potatoes and your carrots and all your ingredients in, and they don't instantly go together. They take hours to cook, and they cook at their own times.
Yes.
And they take, so the meat
To
potatoes.
marinate.
Yeah, to marinate. And so the meat and potatoes might be done
Right.
in 5 hours, but it may take the full 7 hours for the carrots to be done.
Right.
So you need to let the carrot cook in its own time instead of trying to force it into a blender. And so that was a really good analogy for me. And he was saying that for every hour that it takes your meal in a crock pot, it takes that many years in a blended family to truly blend. So he was saying that it takes 7 years typically for a blended family to blend and love each other and get along. But that's not what we do. We jump into this and we force everybody.
But then they talk about the 7-year itch. Is that a real thing?
Well, that I don't know. We're not married yet, so I mean, I got divorced at 6 years, so I don't know, maybe, but.
Or do you think that rules, or do you think that's actually outdated rule? Do you think that that's happening so much faster, where you have like the beginning where it's all highs and lovey-dovey, and you can't wait to see the person, and then real life situations start stepping in and start taking more away from your time and your energy, or maybe like these expectations start to grow that you have for your partner that you never talk about.
Well,
so all of these other things that start getting
That's the thing it talks about, and we're about to get really real because she wants milk or she's going to start screaming. So we're going to give her some milk right here. But we'll keep her knowing, seeing what's going on. So I think that the problem that a lot of people have, and we kind of touched on this in the class, is that we need to lower our expectations a little. We go into relationships with these super high expectations, and then I think with the itch and what you're talking about and the highs and lows, I think people get lazy and they don't want to put in the work. And a good relationship takes a lot of work. I mean, you have to constantly be working on things with your spouse and loving your spouse and focusing on things. And I think when people get comfortable and they stop like growing together, then that's where you run into things like the 7-year itch, and people are bored and it's easier to give up than work at it again and make things funny. Because in the beginning, everything is, we talked about that in our sex episode. Like, in the beginning, everything's all fun and games in the beginning and carefree and exciting and all this stuff. And then, you get comfortable and, life kind of takes over and you have to work hard to get that back.
So, so you guys decided, who decided to go to this? Is this something that, you brought up, or that you guys thought about doing this together?
So the pastor brought it up to both of us, but I pushed and was like, we're doing this. Like, I was watching for it, and when the email came out, I registered right away.
And what would drive a couple like yourself to go and do that? Do you feel like you needed more support, or?
Oh, absolutely. I think that, we rushed. We're learning that we made a lot of the typical mistakes that families make. We rushed our families into this. We're expecting everyone to get along. We're expecting, Kaylee and Mike have tension, and that's okay. Like, that's a new person introduced in her life, and we can't force her to love him, and the boys were younger, so it's going to be easier with them. And so we wanted to meet other couples and hear other stories and know that we weren't alone. Mm-hmm. But we also wanted guidance on how we can do things better. How we can do things better for our kids. How we can handle situations with difficult exes better. How we can,
That's
try and
thing.
limit
How
the
you guys,
difficulties.
is that been a factor in your blended family, dealing with the exes and stuff? And like... I just don't get why people just don't want to work together, though, girlfriend. You know what I mean?
Why does everything have to be difficult?
Why does it have to be difficult? You want to know why? Because somebody's feelings got hurt. Someone didn't obviously evolve to move past the situation. And I'm sure that there's different variables and different situations for a lot of different people. But if the intention is really there to, evolve and the best for your children, then you just do that. Right. I know for myself, being a single mother all those years, I chose to have good relationships with my kids' fathers and not have this thing that was always over my head, or this difficult situation, even though it wasn't always easy.
Right.
It wasn't always easy.
It's
a choice that I made, because for me it was just I'm putting myself, I'm thinking outside of that. My children are my children are my everything.
Look at what you keep saying. You keep saying my children. My children, my children, my children. You don't once mention your ex. Mm-hmm. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're making it about your children. And that's where people get lost. When you hold resentment and you make it about your ex and you take away from your children.
Right. But even also, exes can be difficult too. They can feel a little, slighted by whatever happened in the relationship. But again, take myself out of the scenario.
And put your kids
and not even just that, but tell them how much. Even reassurance to my ex is that you are a key component, even though we're not together.
Right.
Because you are the father.
Absolutely.
And being able to say those things and being able to tell him those things it was key to the growth of our kids, and those kids never seeing us fight. Seeing us have some issue. And when even I had some tension issues or we didn't see eye to eye, we had private conversations about that.
Right.
My kids also weren't involved in those things either. So it was like I came from a very volatile family. There was a lot of fighting. There was a lot of tension. There was a lot of, backstabbing and betrayal and all kinds. I mean, you name it, it was probably, Dynasty in the hood.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I'm serious, like Puerto Rican style. Like for real. It was not cool, you know. And those things though helped grow me to what when I made the decision to have a child, I was in college, you know what I mean? I was 19 years old. And I had my first son.
Right.
You know, but that was my choice. And when I made the choice to start having my family, even at a young age, you know, I decided to take that was my opportunity to change the narrative.
Right.
And to buy back the sins that my parents made with me.
And
not
that's
do
good
it again.
parenting. And that is good parenting. And that's where I think a lot of people get lost in blended families. Say hi, Anya.
There's Anya.
This is real life.
What do you got on your feet this time, Anya?
Oh, she's got some
I like
boots.
her. I do like her boots.
Yeah.
I like those boots, Anya. I love them. Mm-hmm.
Girl loves some boots.
Rainbow is my favorite color. I like her one. Anyway, I don't know. Like I'm glad that you're doing that though, because you know that really helps. You know, the fact that you even have a partner that's with you on this.
Yeah.
Do you know how many partners probably, and I mean, we can't speak on everybody's family situation, but
Right.
there is, you don't see a lot, there might be somebody not trying to make that time.
Well, and
Or
that's
they
the
might
thing.
not acknowledge that there is a problem. Or they might know there's a problem, don't even want to acknowledge it,
and
and
that's-
work through it. They
we
want to
have-
take the easy way out.
We have the dynamics of
And there's
all
no
of that.
easy way out of it. Yes,
Oh
yes,
my gosh.
yes.
And we got some dancing by Anya. That's the thing with our situation is that we have, this is my life. We have, Mike's got an ex-wife, Amy. Hi, Anya.
Yes.
Are you dancing? Mike has an ex-wife who's amazing, and we have an awesome relationship with her, and they've truly done it right. They've put the kids first, and
Yeah.
they've truly done this right.
She is so cute.
She's
Are you-
hilarious. This will be fun to see how Rowena edits this.
I know, right?
Something real.
I
And
know.
then my ex-husband's been difficult since the day I left him and just wanted to get back at me, and it's been a constant struggle. And we have other exes, and I won't get
And some people
into it.
get, and my father was like that too. He decided to just up out and leave. Once my mother decided to divorce his abusive ass. But he was never able to get over that. His pride wasn't able to just get over that.
Right.
The fact that she
some-
left him, that she became, victorious in her own life to do that, which was very difficult because she wanted to be married for better, for worse, for richer, for poor.
No,
in sickness and in health. She did want to fulfill her vow, but that abuse would not let her.
I had a similar situation, and it once I got out of it, there was finding new ways to continue the abuse.
Right.
And it's just one of those things.
Yeah,
Oh, are you singing Daddy Finger?
All right, girl.
All right,
I guess
well, that
we
was
need
a
to
nice
wrap
little-
that. I know that is a nice little one. We're gonna go to our next little segment. We're gonna do together.
Awesome. Say bye, Anya.
Say bye. You gonna say bye, Anya? Say bye.
Bye.